So I'll start at Ayukui to our members out there listening. Um, we're having a discussion today with council. Part of the reason that we're doing this is to open up lines of communication between the membership and council. I think all of council really wants to be transparent. We want to be open. We want to have a dialogue with our membership, and so we've been trying to work towards that. And I think this is one more tool in our toolbox to do that, is to really get out to the membership, the discussions. Today we'll be covering a couple topics, including hemp, the new ordinances coming up. But before we get going too much, we'll do some quick introductions. My name is Frankie Myers, the vice chairman for the Yurok tribe. Was elected in 2018, at the end of 2018. I've been working for the tribe for about 18 years, worked in a couple different departments, activist for the river. My last position was as a tribal heritage preservation officer.
I'm Toby Van Lanningham, Wichita District Representative. I was elected October 2017, so I'm about halfway through my first term, hopefully my first term of many. But lived in the Wichita District for 12 years. Strong on food sovereignty. I've always been an advocate of people being able to grow their own food. I'm strong on economic development. Started my own business. I'd like to see better opportunities on the southern end of the reservation as well as the northern end, to bring our people home, live in our community.
My name is Edward Horse Aubrey. I was elected in 2017. I believe moving down this pathway is going to lead us into economic sovereignty, giving our people opportunities, either employment or using this funding in any way that's fit for our elders, our youth, that is not grant based, or income based.
Excellent. And so what we have is a little collection of some of the questions that we've been getting from our members. The hemp ordinance was put on council calendar about 2 months ago. So it's been out for a while. It was out publicly, I think back in March or late February. And so we've been fielding some questions, and so I'll just kind of go through them and we'll answer them to the best of our ability, and we'll go from there. I would say this is the first of our podcasts that we're going to be doing, but it won't be the last. This is the topic we're starting the conversation with, but hopefully this works out really well and we can do more on other things. The council is doing a lot of really exciting things. The tribal government's doing a lot of exciting things. We have our employees are doing great work, as well as our members are doing great work. And so we want to figure out a way to get that out to our larger membership. So let me ask the question, and we'll start with Councilmember Van Lanningham. And just to kind of ease, if it's okay, we can use Toby and Edward or Horace? Horace. So just for a little bit of clarification, Councilmember Toby Van Lanningham. So Toby, the Tribal Council will soon deliberate on the passage of the hemp ordinance. Maybe you can kind of give a brief overview of what the proposed law is about.
So the hemp ordinance that we have now is delegating tribal authority to regulate any proposed cultivation or manufacturing of hemp or hemp products within the reservation, within hopefully our ancestral territory. It's twofold. It's one, it should be a requirement to, whether we choose to go down the avenue of hemp or not, it should be on our books so the state can't issue cultivation permits within the reservation boundaries. The 2018 Farm Bill, it has the specific language of either tribes or states can regulate. And when I first read it, it seemed like if we don't get in with our own ordinance, it's going to be the state issuing hemp permits within our reservation boundaries, no similar than how we've been battling the marijuana and the permitting of the county process. So,
And that's a good point because before the 2018 Farm bill that allowed tribes in the hemp market, the states were already given authorities to be in the hemp business. And California had already actually passed some laws allowing for hemp production. And so, uh, if the tribe doesn't move forward with some sort of hemp ordinance, whether we move down the lines of actually licensing it or not, it's my understanding that the state of California will have the jurisdiction within our ancestral territory, excluding the reservation. So I think that's one thing to kind of highlight as well, is that the state of California already has laws for growing hemp.
exactly.
And as everyone should be aware, most of our ancestral territory is outside of our reservation. So if we don't adopt some policies and procedures for it, it'll be left up to the state to.
And it's also an opportunity for us to be able to flex our economic sovereignty and our regulatory authority.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the other big question when it was proposed to committees, both Coles Committee, and Natural Resource Committee, and others, um, I think there's a misconception that hemp and cannabis or marijuana are the same thing. So maybe what's the difference between hemp and cannabis or marijuana?
According to federal regulations, anything that's under 3% is considered hemp. Anything over 3% is cannabis. And hemp is 3% less. Anything CBD, THC, anything above 3% is cannabis.
And it's the THC, which is the psychoactive chemical in cannabis that um, gets you high,
Makes you
right?
intoxicated.
Makes you intoxicated, gets you intoxicated, and so hemp has less than 3% of THC in its 0.3, less than 0.3%, right? Less than 0.3% content in the plant or in the product,
Right.
and that's crucial. That's what makes hemp not a Schedule 1 drug,
Right.
and marijuana a Schedule 1 drug.
Right.
Because as of now, marijuana is still a Schedule 1 drug, just like
Marijuana is, yes.
everything else, right?
Yeah.
Heroin, cocaine, it's all Schedule 1, and hemp isn't.
Right.
And it's because
All the other beneficial ingredients or all the other beneficial chemical compounds that is in both marijuana and hemp, only one of them, which is THC, the tetrahydrocarbon, or the THC, it is the only Schedule 1 drug that's banned by the federal government. Everything else that plant contains is legal and has been in many studies. It's been coming out now that
That there's various different cannabinoids.
there are more beneficial compounds within the hemp plant than there are negative compounds, which would be the THC.
That are beneficial for us.
Yes.
so it's different makeup, but at the end of the day, both hemp and marijuana, they're cannabinoids,
Yes, they are.
right? So they're cannabinoids, so they come from the same, I guess, like
Genus.
genus. So the
Yeah.
genus is like the same.
It's
family.
part of the DNA of the plant.
Right. So they're the same family, but they've been separated out. One has the psychoactive properties, and the other one doesn't. And it's my understanding from the research we've done, it was the plant originally started out more like hemp, and hemp was the kind of the basis. And then as humans started messing with it and doing what we do, we were able to breed the THC to a higher content to allow for intoxication. But at the end of the day, the natural state of the plant is hemp, correct?
Yes.
So it's now knowing a little bit of the difference, what do we use hemp for? What is the idea? What are the beneficial uses of hemp? And I know this could be a long discussion, but we'll go ahead and.
Well, the beneficial I see out of the plant is people with Alzheimer's or people with arthritis, or any kind of element that keeps them from doing the things they love. It is very beneficial. You have your balms, your lotions, and different things, especially with our elders. When it comes to our elders, they love to do their basket weaving, and they love to do their beading, and any other cultural activities they like to do. This gives them that relief. It's a alternative solution to the opioids. You know, we're going through the opioid crisis right now, and the problem with this is there is no solution. And the only solution that we have for pain management that is out there right now is this. And I think this moving this pathway is opening that door for us, helping our people. I believe it's a gateway drug. It's a gateway to keeping our people healthy, keeping our people clean, and it's moving down for another avenue of pain management for our people.
I think some of and I agree 100%. It's got tons of health benefits, not only for our elders, but those that have certain disorders or diseases that modern treatment or Western medicine really can't cure or help with. But some of the other things that through the research and several different conferences that it also has the fiber product of the hemp plant also is used for clothing, for paper. Um, Come to find out, BMW and Mercedes, the new models of BMW and Mercedes cars, the interior is actually 90% hemp plastic instead of traditional petroleum-based plastic, which was something that I didn't even know until it came out. There's tons of it because it's a great fiber. It's safer than fiberglass. It's safer than plastic. It's more environmentally friendly. Um, these are just there's
No,
a myriad of uses that just still are just now coming to the table because in this country it's been regulated so long that there hasn't been the ability to do any of the research on it.
No, I think that was one of the big take homes from um, the conversation we had with USDA was and others who are in the businesses. There's a bubble now, and people are talking about the CBD oils and they're talking about the health benefits of it. But I think what the general consensus is really the value of hemp as a plant is
What I like to see, Frankie, is that we're just now starting to learn that it's a rejuvenating plant. So the soils that have been affected, we have a lot of soils affected out there due to environmental issues. And now they're finding that just the hemp plant alone cleans that soil, rejuvenates it, brings it back to natural ability. And so that's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing, and I think 10, 15 years when we look back, we're going to see that the use for hemp and CBD is a relatively small market for what all the uses of hemp are. You have textiles, you have manufacturing, auto manufacturing, replacing plastics. We've had some discussions lately about the tribe's stance on single use products, paper cups, plastic knives, plastic forks, straws. I think in the bigger picture, hemp can replacing all of that, and it won't be a matter of us contemplating single use or not, but what that's made out of.
Because that'd be make it more biodegradable.
Absolutely.
And then we won't have all this waste.
Yeah. So let me we'll keep going. What is the purpose of the ordinance, and what was some of the decisions to propose it? So why do we need this ordinance?
Can we take that?
Yeah.
Well, the purpose of the ordinance, like I said before, it outlines our regulatory authority to be able to either issue or deny cultivation or manufacturing permits within our ancestral lands. It's given us the ability to control what not only tribal members but non-tribal members do within our watersheds. It's no different really than gaming. We have our own regular authority with our casino that's put there to make sure that everything's done properly. If the casino is doing something improper, our gaming commission has the ability to fine them. It has legal recourse in anything that's done regarding hemp within the reservation or at least in our ancestral territory.
And Hurst, we were talking earlier outside about this is an ordinance that we're moving through But just like other ordinances, it doesn't mean that we're absolutely going to do it. So just because we have an ordinance in place doesn't necessarily mean we are going to start licensing
Right.
people. And
It's just a way that we can move forward. If we choose to move down this pathway, it's the door's there. If we choose to, and this is what the people want.
so it gives us an option. Like you said, similar to gaming, it doesn't say we have to license hemp cultivation. It doesn't say we have to go through a processor, but it gives it the the decision for the tribe. And I think there are members who maybe think that we're stepping ahead of them and making the decision before them.
Right.
But I think the discussions we've had is really that's what we're doing is allowing our membership to actually have the discussion. And if they want to move forward, then we can move forward. Because if
I feel with this regulatory aspect of it, we just got done removing marijuana off our
Oh, yeah.
reservation because of people that were doing it environmentally wrong, that were affecting our rivers, our streams, and our forests. And so this gives us ability to regulate what comes into our rivers and put our stringent guidelines in place. And we already have a lot of ordinance in place already. We have pesticide ordinance. We have all these different ordinances there to keep our reservation beautiful, to protect our natural resources. And then so basically this is just another aspect that's to be able to move forward in a fast paced market that it's already there.
And that's a great point, and we don't really talk about it a whole lot. But the basis of the ordinance, it gives us the ability to actually choose or to choose not to get in this market,
Mhm.
because it's an exercise of our sovereignty when we're able to say, if you want to come within the reservation or within our ancestral lands and you want to do this, well, we have an ordinance in place that either prohibits you or allows you to go through the steps.
Yeah.
If we didn't have that ordinance in place, it's legal. So once we create the law, and that's what we're charged with as council members, is to create the laws and legislation that oversees what goes on within
That's
our
that's
boundaries.
the oath we took.
That's the oath we took. So regardless of whether it's going to be or not be, we have to have that policy in place to be able to regulate it, deregulate it.
No, I think there's it was some probably hard fought lessons looking at the county's marijuana or marijuana land use ordinance, and I think we learned a lot having kind of been shoved into that process and having to have worked through the process. And
Right.
I think the 100% key that we learned from it is you want to be on the controlling side.
Right.
You don't want to be on the compliance side of it. You want to be on the regulatory side of it, because that way you define what the game is, and you're taking the lead on it. Because otherwise, you're just going along with whatever the county, whatever the state says.
And we can monitor it. That'd be our right to be able to monitor it and make sure that it stays in them guidelines.
Right. Okay, so moving on, going through, what is the purpose of the ordinance? I think one of the questions we are asked, whether we're talking about hemp or anything, is what has the tribe done to inform the tribal membership about the new law? I know this is the question we get asked, all the time on various projects. Is what is the tribal council doing to involve the membership? And I think, one of my responses to that is we did put it on the council calendar for kind of the public viewing a few months ago. But I know we've also been having these discussions as well. But I think the other answer to the question is, maybe we need to do more work, and some of that answer is what we're doing now, is being open about the topic and what we're doing.
And if we come Thursday when we vote on this and it does pass this, we're gonna have an open forum for our community to come speak to us, tell us how they feel, what avenues we need to go down, and how is it gonna help the people? Where's the opportunities for the people? Where is there going to be a percentage of jobs to the people? Is it going to be funding going to elders? Is there going to be funding for youth programs? Or how are we going to use this money? And basically, the way I feel about it is, as long as we're taking off heading towards economic sovereignty and getting away from it being 90% grant funded, and we can utilize this funding that don't come with stipulations, but actually we can use it to help our people any way we want to.
So with me, with how I've been, I haven't when we originally saw the farm bill was signed by the president and we really started digging
Because
into it.
that's relatively new, right? The farm bill.
December 2018 is when the farm bill was signed into law.
So it just got signed in
Just got in
December. So this, I mean, it's a relatively. I mean, it is a new bill. It's only a couple months ago that
It is.
even allowed the tribes to have this discussion.
Exactly. So when that happened, and this is how I've always, at least I've tried to operate, is before I really take anything to my district, I really would like to be able to speak about it and not let any answers go unanswered or any questions go unanswered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, started digging into the research. I mean, I'm not a hemp or marijuana guy. I don't know a whole lot about it. So we started looking at pros and cons,
Yeah.
you know, and then as it starts unfolding, it starts getting a little more interesting, and it's like, well, maybe this is something that we should really research, just so once it does come to tribal membership and the discussions, that we're as informed as possible about it. So I really
I think
dug
that's.
into
I
it.
think really that's the struggle as council in general as well is we want to do our due diligence. We want to be able to have intelligent conversations about topics. We want to be able to give that
Right.
information to the membership, and I think it's a matter of timing for when we get the information and we kind of collect it and we give it out to the members. So I don't think it serves anyone to bring topics up to the membership that we don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like it's a balance of, okay, we got to learn about it, figure it out, find some information, give it to the membership so we can have
And
full conversation.
And we're still doing our due diligence.
Absolutely.
We still there's still a lot for us to learn and to know and be able to present to our communities.
And this is a part of the due diligence is going out to the community membership. Where we'll be talking on Thursday, and the meeting will be in South District. So we're having it out in Eureka at our Worthington site. That's another way of we're trying to get the message out. So how is the one of the things that's also been brought up quite often, and the question is, if the hemp ordinance goes through, does that supersede all of our other laws, and how is this law consistent with the tribe's role as a natural resource manager, and how is it consistent with our other ordinances we have in place?
It's I mean it's directly in line with how we've been trying to protect the watershed, because we're, like we said previously, we will be the regulating authority. If we don't allow it, if it goes against our law, it's not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does fall in line with the days of the illegal marijuana grows and all the outsiders coming in, buying up the land, driving up the land prices, and then clear cutting, putting the pesticides and herbicides in the ground, destroying the creeks that feed our domestic water systems. Those days are gone. Now it's, if you're doing something wrong, we're going to come in, we're going to fine you, we're probably going to put a lien on your property. There's all kinds of different avenues with the ordinance that we can utilize, because in our ordinance we do have penalties. So if there's anything that's going on that violates our regulations, there's repercussions. So it gives us that. Before it was with Operation Yurok, it was a joint venture with outside agencies who actually had the authority to do what we were doing within the exterior boundaries of the reservation. When we were cutting down crops outside our reservation boundaries, it was because it was in co-management with the other authorities that had that jurisdiction.
Right.
Now we have that jurisdiction. I don't know if it was a fluke or if the president and Congress knew what they were doing, but once they gave us that authority over all hemp within our lands,
Within our territory.
it really has become. This is the first time that we actually have absolute regulatory authority and power over something
that's going to affect us.
that is absolutely could have it could have huge negative impacts on our watershed, and now we can say no and put our foot down.
And also, it gives us the ability to make sure whoever does business with us, that we can make sure that they're certified organic, that none of the stuff they're using is going to be have pesticides or chemicals that are going to affect our natural resources.
Because they still have to comply with all our other ordinances.
All our
And
other ordinances.
it's a valid question because there are ordinances that come out that have clauses about this ordinance supersedes all other ordinances. This one's not like that.
No.
This one's very clear that this ordinance goes through, but all the other ordinances fall into place. And maybe we'll just run through. We have the cultural resource ordinance that still has to be applied. We have the pesticide ordinance that still has to apply. We have the water quality ordinance that still has to apply. We still have to apply with the taro as well.
Right.
So all of our other ordinances that council has been put in place to protect our land and our people,
Exactly.
all of those are still on the table. They all have to apply still.
And some of the discussion that I have had is, and it's always been, well, you don't have jurisdiction over non-Indians.
Yeah.
But in order for anyone that is non-Indian to do business on the reservation, according to our ordinance, they have to sign a consent to jurisdiction. And once, if anybody in Indian law understands, or any law understands it, once they sign that consent to jurisdiction waiver, they are held accountable to every law we have on the book. So it does include our tribal employment rights ordinance. It includes the water quality, the air quality, even our dog leash ordinance. It's going to hold them to our laws.
Yeah.
And it's
Absolutely.
not just one law; it's every law, and that's a huge impact because traditionally we haven't had the authority in a PL 280 state. We haven't had the authority to
Very limited.
the jurisdiction of non-Indians within our reservation. We do have jurisdiction on other Indians that are not tribal members.
And it's undefined. There's a big question. It's a gray area. Let's move into one other one that's been brought up is what is the why? What are we if we pass the ordinance and it goes through for federal approval and the tribe is given the option, and after we do a good amount of tribe member buy-in and our membership agrees and says we should move this way, we in doing our due diligence, there's some stuff that we've looked at that we can do. I think immediately people say, you're gonna go out and you're gonna plant 1,000 acres and we're gonna cultivate a bunch of hemp.
Right.
And I think we can collectively say from the research we've done, that's not where it is, and that's not where the tribe can be competitive. Not that we would even want to, but other states, Oregon, they're pushing hemp cultivation. Kentucky has already got thousands of acres of hemp cultivation, and the tribe, even if we didn't have the good morals that we do, and even if we didn't have our strong protection for water resources and cultural resources, there's still no way for us to be competitive, even if we wanted to.
Economically viable.
The only way we could be competitive is if we get into a manufacturing the oils, the lotions, all these different products that are out there for people's ailments or whatever it is to heal them. That's where the money's at.
Correct.
And